So I'm not going to give somebody like a rosary workout, for example. That's better than doing nothing. Like if that's the thing that gets you going, whatever, do it. But it's not a technically excellent workout routine. Sometimes I see like Catholic fitness people like being like, do this divine mercy workout with me. I'm like, you're just making it up to sound Catholic. Like you're not actually serving anyone genuinely. No. It's because of our faith that we want to be the best possible coaches we can be. A Catholic surgeon isn't using rosary beads to like sew up somebody after surgery, right? No, but it's because of their faith. They see this person in front of them that they're trying to serve and love to the best of their ability.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Founders Podcast, where we are on a mission to help Catholic entrepreneurs all around the world understand that there is a deeper level of entrepreneurship, more than just chasing money, more than just chasing impact, but leaning into the divine calling that you have as a co-creator alongside God. He gave you these skills, and we want you to put them to use. We want you to understand that that's what he's calling you to do. All right, folks, today we have a really fun episode with Chase Crouse, the founder and CEO of Hypuro Fit. I believe I'm saying that correct. If you've ever wondered how to integrate the deep theological truths of St. John Paul II's theology of the body into your nitty-gritty of your fitness and nutrition routine, this episode is for you. Chase didn't just want to, Catholicize exercise. That rhymes nicely. He wanted to build a business that is authentically Catholic, but as he says, technically excellent, treating the body as a temple and fitness as a means to master oneself for the sake of self-donation. Quite a fascinating thing. You can tell he's a theologian, okay? It's a really interesting episode. So we cover some of the realities of founder-led marketing, basically like how to scale the business past himself, even though he's the face of it, him and his wife, and how they decided to be upfront and transparent about their pricing rather than that typical kind of cloak-and-dagger sales tactics, which oftentimes require high-pressure psychological tactics. This is actually something Hormozy talks a lot about, which I disagree with, obviously, because we're not just using people to get money. We're trying to help them. So there's an interesting, we actually haven't covered this on the podcast before, but this idea of pricing and being kind of cautious and calm in your sales tactics. We also cover how he tries to balance the drive to keep scaling the business while still meeting his duty as a father and husband. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode. I'm confident in that. I do pray that you listen with an open heart and try to understand what are the examples that he's giving here that the Holy Spirit is calling you to also implement in using your influence, using the skills that you have to help those around you come to know God and to help build up God's kingdom through your co-creative abilities. All right, without any further delay, enjoy the episode. Welcome to the pod, Chase. How you doing today?
Man, we're awake. We're here, rocking and rolling, man. If you hear a kid randomly crying in the background, it's because there's probably a kid randomly crying in the babackground.
That's all right, man. I think that we love that. I think that there's always this desire to have everything super polished when we're doing business or taking business calls, but it's like, your kids are your kids, right? They're more important than anything else, right? You shouldn't try to like keep them shut out. I oftentimes will get interrupted in the middle of client meetings or whatever. Just my daughter starts banging on my door and she really wants to come in and rip my books off my shelf, and that's just how it is, right? I think that we have to be a little bit less shy about that part of our life. So anyways, man, well, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Chase Crouse, husband and father of 4. Oldest is 7, youngest is 7 months. That sleep is getting better. We're like in that like cusp of like we're starting to sleep again, which is great. Based out of here, just north of Austin, Texas. Anybody from Texas? I don't live in Austin. Don't live in Austin. But anybody not from Texas, Austin's fine. And I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Hypuro Fit. So we're the world's first Catholic-based exercise and nutrition coaching company founded in JP2's Theology of the Body. So been doing that since 2020. And so been rocking and rolling with that. And before that, I was in ministry full-time, did ministry for years full-time. Thought that was my career path, and then God laughed at me. Mixed things up. But yeah, so I've been rocking and rolling with that since 2020 and just blowing and going from there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's actually a number of people who've come on the show who started out in ministry and ended up as entrepreneurs. I think some people joke it's because they started having kids and they needed to make the money to pay for the kids. Or some people, I personally think that there's certain people who have it on their heart that they love God, they want to serve God and bring others closer to Him, but they don't think about the fact that they can do that through entrepreneurship or through something else. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a youth minister, right?
Yeah.
To do that, right? So that's interesting. Tell us a little bit about so I am just curious to understand, what is the business model now and how did it start? Give us kind of like right now, here's how you guys make money, here's what you guys do, and then how did it start? Because I think it changed over time.
Yeah. So we have two main kind of levers. I mean, we have other stuff we do miscellaneously, but first, our main revenue stream is our one-on-one coaching. So how I've set up the company is intentionally set it up to where it's not Chase Crouse Fitness or something like that. It's like we're a company, and so we have a team of coaches. My wife and I run the company, and we obviously have clients as well, but we have a team of about 9 coaches, and they're all contractors, which is great. And we essentially run it like a barbershop. So every coach is a contractor, and then we take a percentage off the top of whatever they charged. And we intentionally, even from the beginning, set it up to where it's very coach friendly. So a lot of traditional secular gyms, they'll take like 80% off the top of whatever the trainer charges, right? It's nuts. And so we flipped that model. And so we want to be very coach friendly because they're the ones doing the work. And so that's our main revenue stream. But then also last year we launched our subscription app. It's actually like a 1-year anniversary. Like this week, which is cool. And so a lot of people were coming to us over the years being like, I love what you guys talk about. I love your philosophy. I love what you guys do. Maybe I can't afford one-on-one coaching, or I just don't want one-on-one coaching. Like, I don't really need it, but I want more of what you guys do. And so, we answered that call, and we launched a subscription app that we've been growing this past year, which has been really fun. And then, we'll have partnerships with different organizations and ministries as well. They're equipping their people with our app or this kind of one-on-one coaching or whatever. And then I'll fly around and like give talks and workshops and stuff. But we purposely don't like advertise that. It's like I'll do it if somebody asks, but it's not our main lever just because it's such a time commitment. And for me, it's just, I like doing it, but it's not like something I like actively chase. Yeah, our main 2 levers are that one-on-one coaching and then our subscription. And then originally, even since that one-on-one coaching was basically the only thing we did. And I intentionally set it up to where, once again, I wanted to be coach friendly, right? Even from the beginning. And I intentionally didn't name this like Chase Crouse Fitness or like whatever. Like you see a lot of solo online fitness coaches. It's just like their name is their company, right? Which is fine. But I intentionally didn't want to do that because I knew from the beginning that I wasn't going to click with everybody. Right. I wasn't going to be like the coach that's going to perfectly fit every situation, every need. I won't be able to perfectly relate to everybody. And like, that's okay. Like, that's fine. And so we wanted to make sure we could set it up the way we set it up now to where we can invite other Catholic fitness professionals into kind of our umbrella. One, it's more scalable that way, right? I mean, I can only work with so many people. My wife can only work with so many people. So scalability is a big thing there. But also, it's hard to break into the online coaching world. You either got to be great at social media and live and die on social media, right? Or be great at ads and marketing. And a lot of coaches, especially our team, like they don't have a desire to live on social media. They don't want to do advertising and marketing, and they don't want to build their own systems and platforms and automations, and just not what they want to do. Cool. We'll do that for you. Just come and work for us. And it's been great.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny because I always remember Alex Ramosi talking about when he started, doing fitness coaching, and he realized like most of the business was actually just running the business and not doing the coaching.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting to have the infrastructure for people who do genuinely just want to do that, right? They're good at it, they have a gift at it, and it's something that we could talk about potentially more, of this idea of leaning into what is your gift, because some people, they might have that gift of coaching, but it's not meant that they're not great at social media, or they're not great at running a business. And if they want to be excellent at doing the coaching thing, they need to still pay the bills, right? So having like partnering with somebody like you and your team that can help them do that, that's very like, that's how do you say, like everybody's got the right skills in the right place, right? And they're leaning into what God has for them. I'm curious, right now, I don't know if you have any like huge thoughts about this, but it did come to mind. You intentionally decided to build a brand so that it wasn't just tied to your name, and that it could be then scalable. It could be kind of a company brand versus a personal brand. Obviously, you guys probably were the face of it and still are to a large extent on your social media. I don't watch your social media a lot, but what do you think right now around the more AI is becoming kind of like taking the human out of things, and people want human connection? I think that the personal brand, the individual, like this is the CEO of the company, I have an attachment to that person rather than the company corporate brand. Do you think that that's going to keep getting more and more where people really want that human connection? And if so, how do you scale a business outside of just you if you're not the brand anymore?
No, that's a great question. So it's funny. Last year, I can't say the name, but last year we were approached by kind of a high level potential investor. Like, so first, we're privately owned. We've never done investors, but this guy he's a big name, and we were entertaining the conversation, and we were speaking on and off for weeks. And I was going to go fly out to meet him, all these things. And then he gives me a call one day, and he's like, Chase, have you heard about this whole AI thing? Like, isn't that going to like ruin the business? And he was scared off by the fact that AI exists. One thing that, at that point, I didn't know as much about AI as I do now. I have Claude on my phone or my computer and all these things and Whisper Flow and all this stuff. But at least our community, our demographic, our target audience, yeah, they don't mind technology. They want it to be good. They want it to be delivered what they want to. But yeah, they want a real life human being, right? And so even on our app, even for subscribers, when they ask questions, it comes to me and my wife. Like we will send a voice note, like we'll answer it, which sometimes our inbox gets a little crazy, but it's fine. Like we want that because we want people to understand that they're not in this alone. Like there's a real life human being literally praying for you every day. Like me and my team pray for all our clients and users every single day, but also answering questions. And so it's that balance of, I think, at least in our target demographics, so mostly Catholics, right? Of using technology as a tool to expedite things, to make things better, more efficient, all that's fine, without replacing the person with it. So even in my company, if you go to our social media, me and my wife are everywhere on our social media, right? So it is very much founder-led marketing, right? What we do. And when people message our Instagram, it's not like a bot answering you. It's probably my wife and I. And so and it's funny when people jump on our app, if they don't know that and they ask a question or they fill like a question form. And when we send a voice note, like all the time, we're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know this was like a real person that was going to answer me. I thought it was going to be like an AI, whatever automated thing. And our app developers are working on some ways to integrate AI into our app. We're about to launch it like the next couple of weeks, but we intentionally leave that human connection. And some of this is also coming back to our founding philosophy based in JP2, right? In his, what he calls the personalistic norm. People are people to be loved, not objects to be used. So our subscribers, our one-on-one clients, my coaches, they're not means to an end. They are the end, right? They're people. And so even if somebody's a low ticket subscriber versus a high ticket one-on-one client, I'm going to treat you with the same amount of respect, right? It doesn't mean you're going to get the same amount of my time necessarily, but the same level of respect because they're still people. So yeah, it's a balance for sure. And I think AI can be a tool. We are trying to integrate it in ways that make sense. So for example, we have a macro calculator and a recipe book in our app. So we're actually developing AI to where once that's utilized, if you want the AI to develop you like a personalized custom meal plan, it will, right? It's like, cool. Based on your macros, based on your goals, based on the foods you like, here's a meal plan for the week. That's an awesome use of AI, right? Like, could I do that? Yeah, but like, it's going to do it. I mean, potentially just as good, not better, especially if I train it to think like me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, there's a lot of things we can do with it, but that personal connection has to be huge. Yeah, we've always been founder led. Marketing at least, and because that builds trust. Also, a lot of times, people will say like, what makes you a Catholic fitness company? Because there's been a few that's popped up the past couple of years that have been like, I'm a Catholic fitness coach. And it's like, you're a secular coach that threw the name Catholic onto your social media. And like I have a master's in biblical theology and I studied John Paul II at John Paul II Catholic University. And so I think for a lot of Catholics, when they hear that we speak the same language, right, it just builds that bridge of trust. So they know it's not just like we're not using our faith as a marketing tool. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we're authentically Catholic while being technically excellent at the same time.
Yeah. So that's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of, I especially appreciate the fact that people are surprised when they get a human on the other end. I think I don't think people are understanding how much advantage there is to leaning into that human component of things because the bar is extremely low right now. And when you have that human answering the phone, like we talked with Zuhair Madnat from Autoglass Experts a while back on the pod, and he was like, yeah, when people call, we have real humans answering the phone, even though it's like one of those businesses where it usually would be AI because they just don't have time, and they love that, right? But on that on that branding component, do you find that there's any challenge with people build an affiliation towards the brand that you and your wife have put out there that they're like, hey, we really want to be coached by you guys, and does that make it harder or awkward sometimes where it's like, no, we don't actually have time to take on more clients ourselves. We, farm that out to other coaches in the network. Like, how do you leverage that interest in working with you and your personality, but then still make them comfortable working with others? And I ask this selfishly because I've got a lot of clients in my recruitment business that like they ask me in my discovery call, like, are you the one doing the work? And I'm like, oh man, like it's gonna get this again. Like, I want to start farming it out and getting more of my own team to do it. But in a lot of ways, they're used to, they know me and they want me to do it, Hey folks, as a quick reminder, we have recently launched The Faithful Steward. This is a free private deal flow newsletter for Catholic investors to be made aware of opportunities to invest in other Catholic owned or led companies or projects. These deal types will range from startup investment opportunities to film opportunities to real estate, anything you can think of, it will be in there. And it's totally free. We are not charging for this. We are just trying to help connect the community. To sign up, you can go to CatholicDealFlow.com. That's CatholicDealFlow.com. How it works is when we get a deal, we make sure that these guys are Catholic. We will then package it up really nicely, send it over to you, and then you can take a look and decide if you would like to reach out. The benefit of this is that you get to remain completely anonymous from all those capital seekers while still getting the benefit of seeing those deals. So you get the benefit of seeing the deals without the publicity of being known. We are not gatekeeping here, so just trying to use our role as a community connector to help Catholics invest in each other and doing this all again for free. If you are a Catholic builder who is looking to raise capital, whether that again is for a film, for real estate, for a startup, or just a mom and pop brick and mortar business, you can go to CatholicDealFlow.com to sign up. You just submit your deck there and a bit of information about you. We'll reach out, we'll verify that you are in fact a practicing Catholic, then we'll package it all up and send it out to the newsletter, and if they're interested, they'll reach out to you. Again, that is CatholicDealFlow.com. It's completely free. You can sign up today. All right, back to the show.
You know, this is fascinating. Right now, I'm in between sales guys, and so I'm doing like a lot of the consult intake calls right now, just because by necessity. And so it's funny because so I'm doing the intake calls, I'm asking them the questions, start with prayer. One of the last questions I asked, like, okay, cool. Like, do you have a coaching preference, like between male and female? And I just kind of position it that way. And then throughout the call, I'm like personally asking them, like, yeah, like if your coach would, I'm speaking your coach. I'm keeping it inherently kind of disconnected from me. And my wife will help me with consult calls too. She'll do the same thing. And it's funny, like most of the time, when I ask male or female, they'll say, I don't really care. Or they'll say, oh, female or male. Like they'll say that. And then I was like, oh, and then my next question, cool. Like we have a lot of coaches on our company's page. Have you checked any of those out yet? 50-50. Sometimes, yeah, I was really actually interested in that coach or this coach, because on our website, we have our list of coaches under our team, and they each have like an intro video and their specialties. Right. Mm-hmm. And so we want to showcase them. We want to showcase that each of our coaches has different areas of expertise. And every once in a while I'll get asked like the question, like, oh, like, are you taking any clients right now? And sometimes I actually am. Like sometimes like I have an opening or whatever, and they're like, yeah, happy to. I will always take like more like the VIP clients, because that happens quite a bit. Like we have a CEO or like a ministry head or somebody that's could be very influential. And I'm like, all right, come on down. Like, let's do it. But I would say probably 90% of the time we've set it up and we've communicated even in our external marketing in such a way where they almost don't expect to work with Viva and I. Mm-hmm. Even though we are the face, we are the founders, like every once in a while it'll happen to where like I have a client intake and I have an opening and they don't have a preference in coaches, but based on what they need and their background, the personality type, I'll be like, hey, I can just take you. It's not a big deal. And they're like, wait, really? Like I can work with you? Like they're almost surprised by it. So I don't know if we've done that intentionally, but yeah, about 90% of the time they don't expect to work with us. And when we just take them, they're almost like surprised by it. And they get like almost like flattered by the fact that like we'll take them on as a client. It's like, I still coach people. I still enjoy coaching people, it's what we do. So yeah, I couldn't tell you like, exactly what moment in time we set that up, other than the fact that like it's Hypuro Fit. It's not Chase Crouse.
Yeah. Right. It sounds like almost in a way that because you mentally kind of created it in that you intentionally, not just the brand, but like intentionally knew that you want to eventually grow up beyond your own coaching, that you were doing that from the beginning. And I think that, maybe this could be the challenge I'm in, is like I leaned into my own personal, my brand, because, recruiting is relationships. Nobody likes recruiters really, unless they have a reason to like you, separate from, you showing up and saying, hey, pay me money to find your talent.
Yeah.
So I think that could be some of the challenge. And I think it's a worthwhile consideration for anybody in the very beginning stages of starting their business, which is a lot of people who we work with in our community, is like decide whether or not you want to be a solopreneur or if you want to scale a business. Like, I think you should really consider that at the beginning, because it can change a little bit of how you market things and how you brand things. Yeah. So
yeah.
I appreciate that. Now, you've talked obviously a number of times about how you and your wife work together on this. How has that been? Because I know a lot of people say, oh, you should never work with your spouse. Like, I'm just kind of curious to get your perspective on it. Like, what are the core things of the do's and don'ts about this? Like the advice that you have for other people in that boat?
Yeah. So when I started the company, I had a co-founder named Ben West, an old college buddy of mine, and he was kind of the marketing and the visual side of things. But then he had 3 kids under 3 and was just like, bro, like, and at that point, this was we launched in 2020. This was like January of 21. And he was like, dude, I have no bandwidth for this. At that point, we weren't really making any money. Like we were bootstrapped, right? We have no like private equity backing or anything like that, right? So he let me just take over 100% of the ownership. So I was just doing my thing. My wife was like miscellaneously helping me out at the back end, but nothing crazy. And it was that year that she started getting into coaching, like in-person coaching, got certified, started working with people one-on-one with the hope of one day coming into Hypuro Fit. And so it was a very gradual thing. Like the more she fell in love with coaching, the more her skill set developed, the more like we brought her in to things. And then, over time, yeah, it was almost like she got sick of how bad I was at social media. And so she's like, hey, I'm going to start doing this. Right. And so I was like, okay, great. That's awesome or whatever. And then our original website, we just didn't like, it wasn't functional, didn't look good. And so I kind of set up the frame of our new website, just like, this is the information I want. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to come in and just clean it up. Right. Our marriage, professional relationship, if you will, has really developed of her kind of coming in, seeing what I'm just not good at. Right. Like I'm not very meticulous. I'm not like a detail oriented person. I'm more big picture guy. So, but when it comes to marketing and visuals and stuff, you have to be, right? And so she kind of fills in those holes for me. And we've kind of just organically been able to stay in our lanes, right? Of like, this is where she comes in, this is where I come in, and balance that pretty well. Now, the mistake I have definitely made, like over the past 6 years, at least once a year, is, and I think this is not just unique to me as an entrepreneur. For me, nobody works as quickly or as efficiently as I want them to, right? Like I want things like, let's go. Because I personally, if I commit myself to something, I can crank out work, right? I can get stuff done. And I've just realized over the years, like that's not everybody, And so definitely there's been projects come up where in my brain, like this is not a big lift. Like this shouldn't take that long or whatever. And then maybe, I ask her to do it or ask her to help, and then it doesn't happen quickly enough. And so I've had to like manage my own expectations of just because I would have done something a certain way doesn't mean, everybody would. And even when it comes to like when we have sales guys, which we usually do, but right now we're in between, like when you hire a sales guy, their closing percentage isn't going to be as good as mine. Right. Like inherently so. They can't speak with the authority, with all these things. And Alex Ramosi talks about this sometimes too. It's like, yeah, but like, if you can train them up to be like pretty good, then it frees up my time to then do other things. Right. So a lot of this is as a founder, as an owner, has been just learning to manage my expectations and stay in my lane and being okay with things being done differently as long as they're still done well, and managing my expectations of timeline.
Yeah. That perfection mentality around like, oh, like I can't get somebody to 100% of the way I do it is, I think it's personally something I've struggled with a lot. I have accepted the fact that there's going to be like some variance there, but I think it's what holds a lot of founders back from growing the team is because they're just worried like, oh, it won't be done as good as I want it to be done. Yeah. And that's not to say that they can't get really close over time, but you do have to invest a lot into them. And I think it's really hard because especially they're not the owners of the business. Even if you give them some sort of profit sharing or something, they're not the ones who, poured everything into this and they've tied their identity to it and everything. Right.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about this because I don't think we've had anybody on from the fitness world to talk about this. So can you talk a little bit more about how you are genuinely a Catholic coaching, like fitness coaching business, like how you integrate the theology of the body components and just like, how does somebody, you can walk us through, how does somebody like work out for the sake of not vanity?
Yeah. One of the things we say all the time is we're authentically Catholic, but technically excellent. So one of the things since the beginning that we've actively avoided is we don't want to arbitrarily Catholicize exercise. Right. Or spiritualize nutrition. What I mean by that is the thing that makes us authentically Catholic, other than the fact that we're all Catholic and love Jesus, is the lenses that we wear. And these are the lenses that JP2 wore. So the theology of the body, if you've ever studied it and read it, it's not just like a sex ed talk, right? It's not like a purity talk. What JP2 does or did is he's looking at certain passages of scripture through this hermeneutic or this lens of Gaudium et Spes, namely that man finds himself through a sincere gift of self, right? If this is a true statement that man finds himself through a sincere gift of self, then he's reading these passages in light of that, right? And so for us, we wear the same lenses of this man finds himself through a gift of self with the added lens that JP2 does in Audience 15, paragraph 2, where he says self-donation or self-gift is impossible without self-mastery. And he gets that from John of the Cross, right? This is not like a JP2 invention, but he articulated it in this way, which is my light bulb moment. So the lens that we see the world through, that I teach my coaches to see the world through and exercise and nutrition through, is the fact that we're called to give of ourselves fully, like Christ did on the cross, but you can't give what you don't have. So exercise, nutritional discipline, lifestyle, recovery, they're all tools to conquer yourself, to better give of yourself. So with that lens in mind, we can also then approach exercise and nutrition with technical excellence, basing our prescriptions, our recommendations, our protocols off of the latest general consensus of scientific data and research we have at our disposal. So I'm not going to give somebody like a rosary workout, for example. Don't get me wrong. That's better than doing nothing. Like if that's the thing that gets you going, whatever, do it. But it's not a technically excellent workout routine. It's not based in any science. And sometimes I see like Catholic fitness people like being like, do this divine mercy workout with me. I'm like, you're just making it up to sound Catholic. Like you're not actually serving anyone genuinely. So for us, it's like, no. It's because of our faith that we want to be the best possible coaches we can be. I think of like Catholic doctors and lawyers and business people. A Catholic surgeon isn't using rosary beads to like sew up somebody after surgery, right? No, but it's because of their faith. They see this person in front of them that they're trying to serve and love to the best of their ability. And so that's how we want to approach exercise and nutrition as well. So, during a check-in call, now don't get me wrong, we're going to start every check-in call with a prayer, right? Like we're going to remind ourselves like why we're here, who we're talking to, right? But we're going to talk about the exercise routine, profiles. We're going to talk about the nutrition protocols. We're going to see what weight they lost or gained depending on their goal. And we're going to look at all these things like you would with any other online health coach, right? But then when, and it's not if, but when those moments come up where they're struggling with something, whatever the case may be, we don't have to leave our faith at the door, right? So there's some clients that will share stuff with me and I'll be like, have you brought that to confession? And they'll be like, no. I'm like, might want to do it. Like, consider it. I'm not a spiritual director, right? We're not spiritual director, we're coaches, but we don't have to leave our faith at the door. And it's really cool. About a third of our clients are actually priests. So for them, we have advanced degrees in theology. So we can like talk about like virtue, and even with our non-priest clients, we can bring virtue ethics into this thing. We can build habits into this thing in ways that a secular coach can't. So that's the biggest thing. In summary, authentically Catholic, but technically excellent in what we do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think there's a couple things to pull on there. One observation that stood out to me is that in the, like the well executed fitness routine, if somebody wants to be in shape, there is a component of multiple things, including rest and rejuvenation. And this is something that entrepreneurs kind of suck at. Is that we do not, I personally am very guilty of this. Like holy leisure is like, very unattainable. It feels very unattainable. It's like I have a cello that I could go practice and play and enjoy it to an extent, but I just don't. Like I end up just working pretty much all the time. So I'm kind of curious if you have any perspectives on this around like the importance of figuring out, like maybe it's for you personally, like as an entrepreneur, you are just trying to build a business. In some cases, you're really struggling to just pay the bills so you can feed your 10 kids. Like how do you think about this, like this aspect of rest? If you want to live a virtuous life, there has to be some amount of rest and leisure. Can you just like tie this together with the life of the entrepreneur and bring in fitness as you like?
Yeah, and I can tell you how it's kind of developed even us in the past 6 years. So when I started Hypuro Fit, I was still a director of youth ministry at a parish. Like I was like Hypuro Fit was my side gig, which meant I was working some evenings, Saturday mornings, like I was working a lot. Now for me, like my oldest at that point was like a year old, right? So like I could still kind of be present to, my wife and my baby and stuff like that. But as we've grown, once I went into it full time, all these things, I've had to purposely and very intentionally set up my business to where profit revenue isn't entirely dependent upon me. Right? Because I knew as long as it was entirely dependent upon me, my hours are going to get crazy. Right. And so there was kind of like a breaking point not that long ago where I had 2 full-time jobs essentially. Like Hypuro Fit I wasn't making quite enough to replace this income, right? Because I still needed all the extra profit to put back into the company for marketing and all these things, right? But it got to a point where like I was just going crazy. Like I was exhausted. I was really close to burnout, not like spiritual burnout, like just a true physical, like mental burnout from juggling 2 jobs. At that point, I was doing tech sales and running Hypuro Fit, which worked because I was doing both from home, which is a lot easier than doing youth ministry and Hypuro Fit. But yeah, once again, the reason I set up my business the way I did is because I wanted it to be scalable. I wanted it to be profitable. I wanted to be able to do it in such a way to where I could be present to my wife and my kids, right? And so now that also might mean I have to not make as much money as I could, right? Like, could I personally make more money if I took on more one-on-one clients? I could. I could. Could I personally make more money if I like lived on social media? Yeah, I could, right? I could maybe, scale more. But I've chosen to, once again, give a lot of clients to my coaches, right? I make a percentage off the top. I can scale that way. Part of the reason, other than the fact of trying to help more people of our subscription app, is because that creates a bit of a semi-passive revenue stream, right? I'm still involved in the app. I'm still answering questions. So it's not totally passive. I hate when people be like, shut up, passive revenue. It's like, dude, you got to work. Like, shut up, like get to work, and so once again, and it took time, right? It took time. Like we're 6 years in. So it's not like my years 1 through 4, I was, living the dream and making money from my coaches and said, no, it was only this past like year and a half or so that this like the fruit of all this work, this groundwork we were doing has really, come in. So I think for me, I have to be okay with making less money for the sake of spending time with my family and resting, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I work on Saturdays, I could, but that would be disordered in my current situation in life right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being okay with making less for the sake of being more present to my kids. Now, I understand not all entrepreneurs can do that because like I have the advantage of like working from home, right? But I think that's also where blessed are the poor in spirit. Like, not saying we all have to be literally poor, but we do have to have a detachment, right, to arbitrarily hitting a certain number goal if it means we're not living and serving our vocational state to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes prayer, it takes discernment, who knows what that number is for each individual. But for me, when we hit that number, I was like, cool, like this is good. Like we're more than comfortable, right? We're doing really well. So, and now I can step back a little bit, not make even more. Company grows. I can spend more time with my family. It doesn't mean I'm against profit, right? Like we need it. Like we need to invest in my company and continue to build it. But yeah, for me, it was a personal decision. And so I just had to draw a line in the sand and just stick to my guns, basically.
If busyness and admin work are keeping you from growing your business, it's time to call Paraclete VA. We connect Catholic business owners with elite Catholic virtual assistants worldwide to handle your marketing, finance, and busy work. How it works is you pay $500 on the day they start, and if you're still happy after 30 days, you pay another $500. Most roles take less than 10 days to fill. To get started, just email admin@catholicfounders.com with a little bit about what you're looking for so you can get back to doing what matters. So in general, do you, even in the times when it was like really foundational in building, that you still set aside certain amount of time each week to like have that leisure or you spend the family time? Or would you say that it was like for a while, it was like, hey, I'm going to be heads down here until I can get to a point where we can breathe a little bit. And then you started doing that more actively?
Yeah. So even from the beginning, I wouldn't work on Sundays, right? So Sundays was always like, nope, like, but I'm going to mass and be with my family, be with my wife, and just shut it down for a day. Now, if like our website broke on a random, like something happened, of course, like, okay, we jump on. But that was definitely the exception and not the rule, right? I think as an owner, I think it's important for all owners, not everything's an emergency, right? It feels like an emergency sometimes.
Think that, yes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I had a client complain. Oh no, something went wrong. This one client, oh my gosh. It's like, all good. Like, you're never going to please everybody or something's going to happen. Or, I've had bad coaches before, right? Like, I've had to let go of coaches and so, but not everything's an emergency. So It's always been the case. Sundays have been, sacred. And then as the company grew, we brought on more coaches as we were getting revenue elsewhere. Okay, cool. Then I protected Saturday and Sunday, right? It was both those days. But I was still working some evenings or some crazy hours or whatever. So it took time, but it was always Sunday was the day I protected. And then it slowly got to where it is, where like right now, like my Calendly link for my clients, it's like 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Monday through Friday. Like those are my times, right? If you want to work with me, make it work, right? Like it's just every once in a while, I have a client be like, "Hey, do you have any evening slots?" And I'll be like, "No."
I think there's something, I think the lesson here is, it's kind of interesting. I'm trying to think this through myself is at what point you can continue to grow without, you don't have to like stop growing your business. But at some point it's like, okay, I have enough money and like the business is stable enough that I can make an active choice to intentionally not work certain hours. Like you taking Saturday is a great example. I think I can intentionally not work Saturday. Yeah, my business might grow a little bit slower, but that's okay. Like I don't need more. Like I
Right.
can. It'll be great if we continue to make more money and to grow the business, but I don't need more. And
Yeah.
then that leads to also a sort of like spiritual trust and reliance on God, where you're saying, hey, like I'm not going to be afraid that. Because I think what oftentimes drives us is we work those extra hours because we're afraid it's going to stop working, right? I
Yeah.
know personally I struggle with this all the time. It's like I'm just worried that the thing that I've built that's working, like what if it just suddenly stops, right? Like I think that's a really hard challenge because in those cases we're effectively relying on ourselves when we could be choosing to kind of like supernaturally put trust in God, right? So
Yeah.
I appreciate the perspective there. I think it's worth all of us listening
Yeah. And it's
to start
scary.
to
And it
reflect
is
on that.
scary, right? I mean, that's the fact of the matter is, especially when your family is contingent on your income, right? Like that's when
Yes.
it gets really scary. Every once in a while I see these like young 21-year-old like fitfluencer types being like, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Get your crap done. I'm like, shut up.
You don't have kids.
Yeah, that's right, man. We might have the same literal 24 hours, but we don't have the same priorities, man. And you
Yeah.
also only didn't get 3 hours of sleep last night because your 2-year-old was throwing up all night. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's a different, and God bless them. They just don't know, right?
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, we were all. I was definitely kind of a similar
Yeah,
vibe when I was young, like posting on
yeah,
Snapchat and everything all the time.
exactly. Yeah,
I understand it. It's one of those things that's fascinating the way God, through the natural progression of life, he teaches us a lot of things.
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so this is good. We could probably spend a lot of time talking about this, but I just, in general, I think people should consider the theme that I think a well-ordered life is always, or at least a virtuous life is always going to have some sort of balance to it. It's not like you're going to be entirely, perfectly balanced, but there is some sort of balance there and some sort of willingness to, be ambitious for God and work really hard, but also not be attached to especially the financial outcomes and the growing the follower count or whatever. It's like, don't be focused on that and be willing to intentionally set aside time for God, give him the first hour of your day, those types of things. And that is the life of a Catholic entrepreneur. It's like, it's not all about just making the number go up, right? So
Yeah.
speaking of number go up, I want to talk about price maxing in a second, or sales maxing. But you guys, if I understand correctly, you put your pricing like publicly on your site. Can you just talk
Mhm.
about that and why you do that and why it's not common in the industry? Like what's typically happening? I want to go into a little bit of discussion about transparency here.
Yeah, no, that's a good topic. So typically in the fitness industry, and even the way we were initially advised to do it, and we did it for the first couple of years, was you get them interested, you get them excited, you promise them results, you show client testimonials, you do all these things, and you have them book a free consult call, right? And then at the consult call, you gather all this information, you make them scared, you make them feel like they can't do it on their own, and then you offer the price at the end, right? It's kind of like your classic cloak and dagger approach when it comes to sales. And fun, especially with the world we serve, we'd have people jump on these calls and be like, I thought you guys were in ministry. Like, are you kidding me? Like, these prices are crazy, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, nope, we're not a nonprofit. We do have a nonprofit arm, but this is not that. And so that was a reality. But there's also a buddy of mine, Dan Rogers. He put me onto this book, the marketing book called They Ask You Tell. And so it's general marketing, like what questions are you being asked consistently from people that aren't your clients or even people that are your clients? And then write blogs about it, do your marketing around that, all these things. And so I kind of applied that principle because I was really struggling with this issue of like just being more transparent because I didn't want to cloak and dagger somebody, didn't feel authentic. Now, there are some businesses where you genuinely can't give a price because everything's like a custom price, right? But at least in the fitness world, we all know our prices. We know it. We set it. The price is the price. Maybe every once in a while we'll throw out like a promo code for New Year's or something like that. But the price.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times historically, when we first started in 2020, almost every online coach, they would charge a large upfront fee that would lock you into a prolonged contract. When we started, it was like $3,000 to $5,000 upfront for a 3 to 6 months like contract typically. And I also knew that our demographic, like I wanted to serve priests and people in ministry, and most of the people I knew I wanted to serve, like, they just didn't have 3 to 5 grand to like throw around without going into debt. I'm like, I'm not gonna make people go into debt work with me. And so we've always done the MRR model, the recurring revenue, the subscription model, always. And in 2020, it was like this, oh, that's not a scalable model. What are you gonna do for ads and blah 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 blah. But because we've stuck to our guns, like we have really consistent monthly revenue. Like I can tell you like what we're going to make next month, right? Based on growth metrics, based on what we have and all these things. And so It did take a little bit longer to scale, maybe, but now it's stable. Now it's growth. And so for the whole upfront pricing, so at first I was kind of scared to put the pricing up there. But one of the things from that book and some other books I was reading, people I was talking to, was like, yeah, but if you have your pricing up front, you're qualifying your leads before they book a call with you. Right? And so our closing percentage went way up, right? Because people, they already knew the price. And we have a video explaining how we got to the price, the different check-in. So we have tons of informational videos on that landing page before you get to the actual pricing and the book a consult call. And then right underneath that, it says one-on-one coaching, not for you. Check out our app, right? Like for the free 2-week trial. So one, it qualified our leads so much more. When we get to the consult call, like they know the pricing and they're still want to talk to us, right? And so we do ask the questions. We make sure we can serve them, make sure we don't need to refer them out or anything like that. And so then when we get to the pricing, it's more about, okay, here are 3 different check-in options. Here's the type of people they tend to serve best. Which one do you think is going to serve you best? If you ask my opinion, I'll give it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they know going into the call what they want. And then we let them change their frequency of check-in at any point in time, even within the initial like 6 months, right? And so I think for me, this is a person-forward client approach to serving these individuals. We're treating them with respect, right? It's like, hey, I don't need to cloak and dagger you, right? I don't need to trick you. I don't need to manipulate you. Here's our pricing. If you feel like we can serve you, let us prove that to you. Because we can, right? We can serve you. So I think it just shows respect for the individual. I think it shows respect for their personhood, their integrity, their intelligence as a human being. And so we did it a couple years ago, and we haven't changed since. It's still there. We're upfront with our pricing, and it's worked for us.
I like that a lot. I think the couple things I want to like pick out a little bit there's this idea that, you know, from a business perspective, Alex Hormozi has his most recent book, $100 Million Money Models, which, by the way, if anybody wants to join the guild, I've got a bunch of free copies to give away because I bought 200 of them. There's this idea that you're trying to bring revenue forward, right? And it allows you to have an unfair advantage because if you can, let's say, get people to sign a year's worth of contract up front, then you have more money to spend on acquiring customers and you can outbid your competitors, blah, 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 blah. But I understand that if you're especially in a growth phase, like maybe you really need the money to provide for your family. So you could go to the customer and say, listen, like, by the way, would you be willing to do an annual contract with us? Because that will allow me as you're starting your business to help provide for my family and to like get the money in the door up front. And they actually might resonate with that because it's also you being honest and human about the component of like your side of the story, right? This is not just like you have the power and you're asking them to do this or take it or leave it. But I also think that it's just, if there's an icky feeling around the cloak and dagger method of selling or any of these things, I think that icky feeling is something that a lot of like sales coaches will just say like, no, you just got to get over that. Like it's just your limiting beliefs or whatever, right? And in reality, it's like, no, that's probably the Holy Spirit saying like, this is not right. And you should kind of tune into that, especially if you have a well-formed conscience, tune into that and say like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this. But it's also...
I would say we're also not ignorant to the fact that we do need to protect my coaches and my business. So we actually do ask for an initial 6-month commitment from our new clients, but it's still paid out monthly. So it's kind of a handshake agreement. Obviously, if they cancel their card or whatever, we can't force them. But 95% of the time, like it goes fine, right?
Yeah.
And if a client does want to cancel before that, in the agreement, we say you owe half of whatever's remaining. So I can protect my coaches because they have a client load, right? And then after the initial 6 months, it just automatically converts to month after that, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have that on the business side of things that protects my business, protects my coaches, and also allows us to retain clients really well because we're not asking them to drop $3,000 every 6 months or $5,000 every 6 months or $10,000 every 6 months or whatever. It's just like, no, this is the monthly price. You can change it at any point and, you know, whatever. And so I have clients that have been with me for like 4 years, 5 years almost. Not that they haven't got results. They just like don't want to create their own workout programs. And once again, that's the MRR model, right? Yeah. And that's just you retain clients. You know, our average retention client right now is like 12 to 15 months. So from a business perspective, we have those protections in place, but they're contingent on us being awesome coaches, right? Yeah. And that's actually one of the ways I vet my coaches, because if I see they're losing clients at the 6-month point every single time, right? When I'm looking at me and my other coaches that 9 to 15 months is where they're averaging, I can have that conversation, train them up a little bit, see what's going on. And so, so it's not like we're ignorant to the fact, but we can just be honest with it, right?
If you're a Catholic business owner, you should not be building alone. Join the Catholic Founders Guild at catholicfounders.com/subscribe. For $10 a month, you can join a group of Catholic founders who are dedicated to bringing the culture back to God. Don't build alone. Join the Catholic Founders Guild today. Yeah, but it's also there are I was going to get to this next, is that there are, in many cases, especially in this business, right? It's like you also, if you are like taking a perspective of virtue and trying to hold your clients accountable, there's a requirement in terms of mental commitment to the outcome, right? So it's like, if you're only going to dip your toes in for a month, are you really serious, right? Like, you're not going to get results, and you can be honest with that. A lot of people would use that as a sales tactic and say, oh, no, because you won't have any results with if you don't do 6 months, you got to pay up front, right? But you guys are kind of taking this nice happy medium where you're mentally getting them to commit to that. And this is the case with many customers, right? You need certain level of time commitment to get sort of results or whatever. So you're taking that, both of those things into account. But on top of that, what you just said is that you're making sure that you are holding yourselves accountable, because there is no way for, like, they can cancel if they want to, meaning that you and your coaches have to show up every day, every week, and be good. And they have to, you have to be excellent, which I think is this is why I find this is one of the kind of interesting things about Catholic entrepreneurship, is that you're basically like mentally putting a contract in place that requires you to show up with virtue every day. So like, it's not just about the money, right? It's like, this is how I personally feel about my customers. Like, I've had situations where I wasn't able to deliver any real results for their and even though I have a non-refundable retainer, sometimes I'm like, you know what, I don't feel great about the fact that they couldn't find somebody. And, maybe they found somebody through another means. I still give them a credit. I'll take that retainer and I give them a credit, so that, I'm not giving the money back, but at least I'm like giving them that towards the next search. So it's helping me retain the customer, but also being like, hey, like, I don't feel great about this outcome, so I'm going to return it. I'm assuming there'd be cases where, maybe somebody comes on financial hard times and you guys aren't going to be like, nope, no, this is what the contract is. I'm sorry, bro. Like, that's not the kind of Christian charity we should have towards each other.
No, and it happens, I mean, a few times a year where somebody loses a job, or somebody's spouse gets cancer, or they get cancer, or like whatever. And so it's something I tell my coaches all the time, like, guys, like, if there's a genuine reason, like, it's not just like they're trying to scam you or whatever, like, no, talk to me. And sometimes it's creative, and like, we'll maybe put them on a pause and start later. And sometimes it's simply, let's just cancel this. Right? Like, let's just get you out of this.
And it shouldn't have to be, you have to go through 3 or 4 layers of supervisors to get that, right? Like, dude, I need this canceled. Just like, take care of it, right? Like, I love Amex. I'm a big like Amex credit card guy, but I really hate it when I have to like cancel one of the cards, because like, hey, I just don't use this one. I'm a big fan of this other one, but like, don't make me spend an hour talking to your customer service because I know I want to cancel it. Like, just cancel my card, bro. So anyways, I think that there's a certain level of just being aware of, like you said earlier, like, our clients are human persons, right? They're not just here for a means of making money. Now, on this sales topic again, there's, maybe now, maybe later, I don't know exactly all of the things you guys offer, but there's ways that, especially Hormozy talks about this, right? Where it's like, you can maximize through, in some ways, is like kind of like psychological games. You can maximize the total revenue that you can collect out of a customer. And maybe there is genuinely an argument to be made that, hey, we're going to make their life better. They're going to get more benefit, out of the services that we're upselling them on. But I think at some point, I always personally ask myself, like, to what extent is that the right thing to do?
Like, do it?
Is it really the best thing for you to collect as much money from that customer? Or is it like, hey, like, this is an offering if you want it, by the way, and just kind of leave it out there, because at what point do you need more money? Do you have any perspectives on this? Or let's just like, I'll call it sales maxing.
Yeah. So a very common thing you'll see in the fitness industry is trainers and coaches that maybe start their own supplement company, or like get a kickback from, like, because they're a brand ambassador for another one. And like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I experimented a little bit with that, just because like I was new to the game and didn't really know what I was doing. But the longer I've been in this game and in this world, what I've seen is that not every coach, but the temptation is to suggest supplements, right? Suggest things to your clients that they don't actually really need, because you get kickback, right? And especially if you have a big following, like if we did that, we can make some money, right? Like, we have enough people on our app, on our one-on-ones, like, we could add a really large chunk of revenue every single year. But we purposely don't do that. I don't allow my coaches to be brand ambassadors with supplement companies because once again, the temptation's too easy to start recommending supplements that maybe actually don't really serve the client or they're not that great, right? Or both. So that's also when I do recommend a supplement to my client, they know it's genuinely, I think this will help them in whatever way they need it, right? Because I don't get a kickback. I can be objective, right? I'm inherently opposed to the kickback thing with coaches and supplement companies. And, once again, I have a really good friend who's an online fitness coach, doesn't work for us, but he's awesome. And he has like a simple promo code, gets a small kit. But I know him personally. He's a virtuous man of God. And when he recommends a supplement, he genuinely does. But for me and just our setup as a company, we just don't do it because I want to be objective. And I want our clients to know that we're being objective. So I think too, this is where, I have to constantly think about this is marketing, sales is inherently manipulative, right? But I don't want to manipulate somebody as a means to an end of making money. They are the end, like I said earlier. And so I want to showcase the fact that I can help them. And if they genuinely need help, I want to make sure they know that we can do it, right? We're serving them. I'm trying to help them. At the same time, we turn down clients, right? If we have a consult call with a client that we genuinely can't help, maybe they need psychological help or maybe, whatever the case may be, we'll tell them no, right? Like, because we don't believe we can serve you. So we're not going to just take your money for the sake of taking your money, right? And so I think part of that's also like, I don't know. I don't have a board to answer to, right? Mm-hmm. Like I don't have investors that are wanting me to like private equity or, whatever VC that it's like, hounding me every quarter for whatever. And so I can run things the way I think they should be run. Is that the most quote unquote optimal business model? Maybe not, but it's working pretty well and I can sleep pretty well at night. So I think it's hard when you're trying to profit max because you're going to come up with crap. Right. Like, and if you can find a genuine way that maybe helps somebody else, then I think maybe, of course, offer multiple things. So a simple way we'll do it when a client graduates from us, a one-on-one client, a lot of times they will become app subscribers. Right. And it's not us trying to like get more money out of them. They just want to stay on the network and it's $15 a month or whatever. And they stay in the system. Right.
Yeah.
And we have a merch store, right? Like we sell t-shirts and stuff like that. And, but we don't like hawk our wares every chance we get. It's just like, if you want to rep our stuff, we get a small percentage kickback. Nobody goes into retail sales, like knowing that margins are going to be great, And so it's not like we're opposed to different revenue streams, but I think for me personally, if I'm going to offer a service or a product or something to somebody, I want it to be a consultative sale, right? I want it to be because I genuinely believe this thing can help you. Therefore, offer it to them, position it. And if they say no, cool. They're a grown man, grown woman. Like you say no.
Yeah. But, I think that's fair. I think it's I started my career in sales and I had a really good sales coach about this. Like there's certain things you can do that just help you make the sale. And again, if you're doing it in a consultative way and you genuinely know that you can help them through your product or through your service, I think there's a certain responsibility to like not be a pushover, to not be afraid to follow up and not to be afraid to back down. At the same time, like having a respect for them, right? Like you don't necessarily want to make it some kind of adversarial situation, right? If you approach it from a perspective of relationship and friendship, and you are like genuinely trying to help that person, that will help you mentally as you go through the sales process. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't like follow best practices around how to do sales or around like how you're positioning your marketing, right? You can't just assume, like you said before, you can't just slap Catholic on it and then assume that Catholics are going to start buying from you. You got to do best practices. We have to be excellent at what we do. So one last thing around the sales thing, and then we got to start wrapping up here, is a lot of people are kind of afraid to follow up and like to pitch people who maybe express some interest because they don't want to be salesy, especially when they're Catholic. And I sometimes encounter this with the Catholic Founders Guild because I'm like super convinced of the value of being in the guild. It's $100 a year, but even though I'm a salesperson, I still struggle sometimes to like constantly like follow up and be like, hey man, you should totally join the guild. It's very valuable. What is your take and your perspective to those Catholics who are like a little bit hesitant to like sound salesy, but in reality they're convinced of the value and you need to put food on the table. So what is your thought there?
I can speak from my personal experience of, because I did tech sales for a couple of years, right? I was selling enterprise sales to big Catholic seminaries and dioceses and stuff like that. So I'm literally selling to priests a lot of the times and academics. Every time I had that thought, if I took a few minutes to think about why, for me, 90% of the time it's because it was rooted in pride. It was a fear of rejection. I didn't want to be seen as a sales guy. I didn't want to be seen as money hungry, or I didn't want to be seen. But like, if you just live in reality, which is humility, understand that this is something that can genuinely help people, that fear of rejection is typically rooted in pride. Right? It's sneaky pride. It's subtle pride. But if you genuinely believe you can help somebody, I think it's a duty to use the virtue of fortitude, right? To call, to email, and don't bug them. Like, don't be annoying, some of Hormozy's stuff around sales. I'm like,
Yeah.
But like, treat them as a human being. Understand how I might want to be approached by a sales guy, right? Sales guys come to me all the time. Now that I'm like, the CEO, whatever, they're every day I'm getting some email or phone call from a sales guy. Anyway, but how would I want to be approached, right? I want to be approached as a intelligent human being, grown man that's not trying to be manipulated. That's obviously being manipulated, right? Or sometimes you're on sales calls where like the product's actually kind of interesting, but you could tell the dude's just reading from a script, right? Like, you're scripting so hard right now. This is not okay. And so I'll have to say, like, Lord, help me to live in reality, to be a humble man. And if I truly believe this is something that's going to help this person, I have the responsibility to let them know. And then when they tell me to buzz off and to stop bothering me, once again, if I said that to somebody, I would probably mean it. So, okay, I'm going to trust that these people mean it, and then I'm going to move on. So that's at least my own experience. Maybe it's not for everybody, but that fear of rejection or fear of any kind of fear-based thing is typically rooted in pride a lot of the time. Yeah. So that's where that litany of humility can come in.
Yeah. I think that's a really good call out. And I would just also point out that, something that comes to mind when you say this is like, if you have, a good friend of yours, or, somebody that who is, let's say, doing something that's against the faith or whatever, like, you also have a responsibility. We know that we have a responsibility to uncomfortably, like, go and charitably, like, approach him and say, hey, like, you should probably, consider not doing that, or go to confession, because we have a responsibility to our brother. And I think that the same thing can, in some cases, be applied to the sales process, right? It's obviously not the same thing. We're not talking about morality here, but I think there's a certain level of helping each other out. So I appreciate that. Yeah. I find one more comment on AI stuff is here, like, there's a lot of people who are building these incredible, like, relatively well, like, crafted outreach systems on like LinkedIn or email, where they actually have like they're really crafted well. And like, I just had one the other day where the guy's headline on LinkedIn was so killer. I was like, that is amazing. I literally, like, I accepted his connection request, and I like I may have even made a post. I was like, this is like an amazing headline for LinkedIn. You guys should like imitate this, right? And then he like starts his sales pitch in the messages, because I was like, bro, I got to give it to you as a killer thing. And he wanted to pitch me on doing outreach for me. And I was like, dude, I have too many clients. I can't actually serve more clients right now. I have to get more recruiters first. And then he continues on. He's like, that's exactly why you need. I was like, bro, you're just following a script now. It's like, now I'm not happy. So it's like, you have to have that human relationship, because you're basically saying like, I really want to buy a truck. And then you say, oh, okay, here's a great 4-door car for you. It's like, you're completely missing the point, right? So anyways, I could go on all day about this, but we're out of time today. So let's end with some rapid fire, and then we'll wrap it up. What is currently some of your favorite scripture?
John 3:30, which is he must increase and I must decrease, which is a quote from John the Baptist.
I like that. It's also, I think if I remember correctly, the church has set up his feast day in a way that, isn't it that right after the summer solstice, so that the time is getting less, so that it's becoming less John the Baptist and more Christ. I forget the exact. Oh yeah, and
I don't know. I need to look that up now.
Then no, that's what it is. And then when Christ is born, right after the winter solstice, it's the time of day is increasing. If I remember correctly, there was like some intentional like component why they structured those times of year as the feast days. But anyways,
I need to look that up.
I'll see if I can find it for you and send it to you, the specific thing. But who is your favorite entrepreneur?
Ooh, my favorite entrepreneur. Probably a former client of mine named Dan Burke. And so he started the Avila Institute, and he's a really holy man, but he runs a multi-million-dollar nonprofit, and it's international, and he doesn't let it interfere with his faith life. So probably Dan Burke, yeah.
Nice. I love that. What is one of your favorite saints currently?
John Paul II. Gonna be him all day, every day. I got his second-class relic of him right here. It's a little piece of his papal outfit that he's currently wearing in this picture.
Wow, that's awesome. Big fan of him. The first ever book report I wrote was on him.
Oh, nice.
And a favorite devotion.
Favorite devotion, probably adoration. We have a perpetual adoration chapel 5 minutes away from my house, so I'm there every morning before the gym.
Nice, I love that. I got to get back into adoration. I've never been like super consistent with it, but I know the benefits of it. But it's really, I should probably adoration max by choosing my next house really close to a perpetual adoration chapel.
That's part of the reason we chose this house. It's 5 minutes from the adoration chapel, which is 6 minutes from my gym, which is 5 minutes from my house. And so my morning routine is just like this circle of driving. And I think
people forget about like some of these small things. It's like part of the reason we chose where we are now is like it's very close to multiple Catholic churches. It's not as close as we were in Wisconsin. We could literally walk to church very easily. It was a nice morning, kind of like midday routine thing. But anyways, this has been a pleasure, man. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I think we touched on a lot of really important things. There's probably more we could talk about, so we can have you back on if you want in the future. Where should people go to learn more about what you guys are up to? And fitness coaches who want to get involved, where should they reach out?
Yeah, so our website's a great place to start, which is just hypurofit.org, hypurofit.org. There's a contact us box. People can put in their information there. You can check out more information, start your 2-week free trial, reach out about the coaching or whatever the case may be. Obviously follow us on like Instagram, to Facebook, all that good stuff.
Nice. Awesome, man. I'm super jazzed about what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, brother.
All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Catholic Founders with Chase Crouse. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do share it with somebody else who might find some value in it. It really does help us to grow, especially give us a subscribe on YouTube as well. It really helps us to juice that algorithm so it knows that we're kind of legit over here. We can put us in front of other people. All right, I want to give you a couple takeaways from this episode. First is consider the servant of servants leadership model that he has. Chase's approach to his coaches isn't just about management. It's about recognizing their dignity as people, not just as means to a financial end. This is something very common in many types of businesses where you're training up other people who need to deliver the work, and in a lot of cases they can be seen as a commodity or sort of a means to an end, but they are not. They are people, and they need to be treated as such. They are possessing infinite dignity, so let's treat them correctly. Also, you never know, it could be an opportunity for them to convert when they see how you treat them versus how others in the industry do. Secondly, remember that not everything is an emergency, right? I think we have this tendency as entrepreneurs to rush to fix things and to always be there, but sometimes it's okay. Just on Sunday, just let things go. You don't need to be constantly checking your notifications and your emails. Just allow some trust in God to enter into that relationship. It will be fruitful. Trust me. All right, guys. And finally, if you are a Catholic entrepreneur or you want to be one, consider joining the Catholic Founders Guild today. We have assembled an incredible group of people who on a regular basis are discussing different things about how to integrate their faith into their work, how to run their businesses in a way that is glorifying God and bringing more souls to know Him. We all are on this journey together, and it's really fun to be able to be surrounded by these people who share exactly what you're looking for. They're not just in entrepreneurship for the sake of making money, and they're not just here like being Catholic and not being ambitious, right? It's a crew. It's a really good synergy between those people who are deeply Catholic and deeply ambitious, and they want to use that ambition for God because they know that's why they were given that ambition. They were given it by God, and they're going to help build His kingdom up. So it's a really fun group. It's only $100 a year to be part of this, so literally anybody can afford it. All you have to do is go to catholicfounders.com/subscribe. The core benefits that come with this are, of course, our community, which is like around 120 people at the moment. And we have a membership directory, so you can find other people in the group, figure out, hey, I need a tax guy who's Catholic. How can I, who can I find in here that I can do work with? We host monthly discussions about different things like the new encyclical from the Pope, or how to hire properly, how to fire well, how to think about legacy. And then we also released a bot that you can query, which is actually trained on all of our Catholic Founders content. So if you are a new listener and you want to figure out, hey, what episodes should I listen to from the past, this is a great way to do so. And obviously you can also kind of recall some of the principles that we've covered as well. Anyways, guys, we really appreciate this. We'd love to see you in the guild. Go to catholicfounders.com/subscribe. We'll see you there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. God bless you. And do not forget that you were created to create. All right. See you next time on the Catholic Founders Podcast.